part 2 of uncovering Genesis' secrets. The big question that everybody's asking is, did it take place? Did the Garden of Eden story with Adam and Eve and the talking snake, the tree of knowledge, the tree of life, did the whole event actually take place? And according to the Kabbalists, the answer is yes, absolutely. Everything is 100% true. What you're reading in Genesis actually took place. There's only one little detail that you need to pay attention to, and that is that it never took place here in the physical world. Everything is true, but it took place in another dimension. Because we Kabbalists, we believe that this world that we live in is only the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg. That most of the reality that you see around us, most of the everyday reality you see is only 1% of what's really happening in the big picture. 99% of reality exists in the unseen, not visible to the eye, at least in this dimension that we're currently residing in, right? So did the Garden of Eden take place? It took place, but it took place in an astral dimension called Olam Yetzirah, which is a non-physical dimension, up to a certain point. Kabbalists have long held that there are 4 worlds, sometimes referred to as kingdoms or dimensions, but there are 4 to existence that correspond to the 4-letter divine name of Hashem given in the Torah. Our tradition is that we do not pronounce the name, but just call it Hashem, literally meaning the name. Why? Because a name is actually a combination of 3 words, Haya, Hoveh, and Yihiyeh. And if you take the letters of Haya, Hoveh, and Yihiyeh and combine them, you have Hashem's name. What are those 3? The meaning of those 3 words? Is, was, and shall be, or the past, the present, and the future. Combined, it's the divine name. If we were to combine is, was, and shall be, a better term for that in English would be the all that is. So the divine name literally means the all that is. So, going back to the chart, looking at the divine name going down, the highest realm or world is the Yud, which represents Atzilut, which is the throne of glory. Only Hashem's presence fills that dimension. Beneath it is the Hey, which is the Beriah, which is the world of creation, where all souls are created, everything is created there, and it's a spiritual dimension, followed by the Vav of Yetzirah, that's the next world down, which is the astral dimension. It's a non-physical dimension where everything that begins as an idea in creation has a developmental phase in formation. And finally, we go to the last Hey of the divine name, which is the world of Asiyah, or the physical dimension. That is our world, the only one governed by the laws of time and space. This lesson's focus will be primarily on at what point did Adam and Eve take on human bodies. Hashem warns that if Adam and Eve eat from the tree of knowledge, they will surely die. But they don't. So what really is going on? But what does the snake say when he says you're not going to die? This is a side conversation, a side question I'm asking right now. Okay? When God gave them the commandment not to eat of the tree of knowledge, he said, if you eat of it, you shall surely die. Except we see in the text that they don't die. It's not like they ate of the fruit and they died. They actually lived a very, very, very long time. So was God forbid, was God lying when he said you shall surely die? Even the snake said, you're not going to die. Trust me, you're not going to die. So is the snake right and God is wrong? So no, actually God is 100% correct. They did die. But what did they didn't die from. They died from the dimension that they were currently residing in, when you live in the astral dimension and God says, if you eat of this tree, remember, everything took place in the astral dimension. Olam Yetzirah. When God said, if you eat of this tree, surely you shall die, they did die. They did die from the dimension that they were fashioned and formed. They died to that world and were reborn in garments of skin as earthlings. Otherwise, there's no other way to understand the text. If you understand everything taking place on the earth level, on a physical level, then they never did die, did they? Point did Adam and Eve become earthlings? When did they become human beings wearing earthly garments? Where is that shown in the text? Well, you have to first and foremost remember that the Torah speaks in codes. There's many levels of understanding. So what I'm going to offer is the two codes, the two references when they became human beings. The first one is, if you notice, when they were created, it says that they were naked and they were not ashamed. Then all of a sudden, after they eat of the tree of knowledge, Hashem calls out to the human and said to him, where are you, Ayeka? And Adam replies, I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and so I hid. And Hashem asks him a very interesting question. Who told you you were naked? Right? So we have this naked, not afraid, naked, afraid. That's one of the codes. And especially when God personally addresses this concern of theirs of being naked and afraid, and Hashem himself makes them garments of skin. So going back to the verse where it says that Hashem made garments of skin for Adam and Eve, the word for skin in Hebrew is or, ayin vav resh. And it is the same word in Hebrew as light, which is also or, but there's just a slight difference in spelling. There's two silent letters that the Kabbalists say changed when Adam and Eve went from light beings to garments of skin, to human bodies. And the word or for skin is with an ayin, the letter ayin, but the word for or in Hebrew, which means light, is with the letter aleph. Aleph represents godliness because it's the first letter. It represents the unity of God. And ayin is not just a letter in Hebrew, but it's also a word. And ayin means an eye. So the Kabbalists now go to the with this idea that ayin is related to garments of skin and it means eyes. Now you can decipher the code going back to the whole conversation between Eve and the serpent. Because Eve, the serpent challenges Eve and says, don't worry, you're not going to die. In fact, your eyes will be open. And the verse then says, then the eyes of both of them, Eve and Adam, were opened, and they perceived that they were naked. So what happened is the opening of the eye is the opening of the Hebrew letter ayin, okay, because ayin means eye. And the opening of that letter is a code for taking on the earthly garment, right? So it basically means incarnating into a human body. And so when what the serpent was trying to do is seduce Eve, it's like, you know you want this, you know you need this to evolve. You know that in heaven, in the spiritual world that you live in, there's only one dimension, there's no contrast, no duality. And in order to evolve and become more, right? In order to become more, you need that duality. And therefore the tree of knowledge, which is good and evil, the tree of duality and contrast, that's the very fruit that you need to eat to make it all happen. We're going to get to one final piece of the study, and that is when we went from being beings of light in Yetzirah to beings of flesh and blood down here in the world of Asiya, what happened to our light? What happened to our light body? So here the Kabbalah teaches that we still have the light. It's just more subtler. It's not a very visible to the eye and very apparent thing. But we have two levels of the light that have remained with us. One is called the Or Pnimi, which means the inner light, and the other is called the Or Hamakif, which means the surrounding light. And the Or Hamakif is what in English we call an aura. And if you look at the English word aura, it even borrows from the Hebrew. It's or, again, the word for light, or Hey, or Hashem, the light of the soul or the light of Hashem. And can people see it nowadays? Some people can train their eyes to see the field of energy that is around the person. That's in Hebrew called the Or HaMakif. Now, the Jewish people have a mitzvah, have a commandment called tzitzit. Tzitzit is a four-cornered garment with fringes on the sides that you see that is traditionally worn, still to this day by Jews. It's a commandment given to us in the day and generation of Moses. The Ben Ish Chai teaches that the whole reason we wear tzitzit is to strengthen the energy field around us, to protect us from unseen forces, right? To protect us from harm, but it's also to keep our inner environment also focused, clean, and pure. So not only does the tzitzit, the wearing of the tzitzit, these fringes, help in strengthening that Or HaMakif, that surrounding light, but all the commandments that we have in the Torah help us in one way or another, whether it be on the earthly plane or on the astral plane. Okay? Because a lot of reality, as we said earlier, it's in the unseen. A lot of our reality that we live in exists in an unseen level. So when we do the mitzvot, when the mitzvot are given in the Torah, it's there to protect us and to keep our focus and to keep to our highest vibration possibly. So it's not only social laws that are for society and for everyday people that make sense on a level of reason, but there's some particular strange laws in the Bible about forbidden mixtures and basically keeping the focus to fine-tune your neshama, your soul as an instrument of light, and to protect it from corruption, to keep the antenna signal as strong as possible so that you can bring in the information and the inspiration that the Creator, the source of the all that is, gives us daily in our everyday lives. And finally, one of the last thoughts I want to leave us with is that this study is a lot of background information. So one of the things about Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, that we need to clear up is the Garden of Eden actually took place in two worlds. So the world that Adam and Eve were in before they came into this dimension, the astral world, is called the lower Garden of Eden. Unfortunately, because of the eating of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which represents duality, unfortunately, not only is the earth dimension corrupted, so that there is that polarity and that duality of good and evil, light and darkness, but also the Yetzirah, the world of Yetzirah. The Yetziric dimension also got corrupted, so that it has that clean and unclean forces and energy. See, in the unseen world, there are good vibes and negative vibes, harmful vibes. And that's what we were saying earlier, is the Torah is protecting us from. So it's actually two dimensions that have now the duality, but then you have the upper Garden of Eden. The upper Garden of Eden is the name we Jews use for heaven, or the afterlife. So when God forbid, you suffer loss in this life and you lose a loved one, the lashon, the language, the terminology we use is that this departed soul has returned back to the Gan Eden, to the Garden of Eden. And the upper Garden of Eden, which is heaven, is the place where the souls were originally created and they return to, but it remains in an uncorrupted state. It's a spiritual state of unity. The soul derives so much pleasure from that dimension it's in constant ecstasy, and it's in a dimension of truth and love and unity of God. So we have the two levels of the Garden of Eden. Adam's story is our story. The opening chapters do not merely share a tale of an event long ago, but rather reveals the origin of every soul's descent to earth. Encoded in ambiguous metaphors and arcane language, I hope I was able to simplify the lessons and unlock some of the mysteries. With every lesson, we will delve deeper and deeper into what is considered crucial background and information to why we are here, how we got here, the challenges we face, and the ultimate goal of humanity. Stay tuned, and in the meantime, God bless, and please take care of yourselves. Shalom.